Discussion on verses 1 to 56 of 56. The previous chapter primarily focused on spiritual discipline and how it serves as the foundation for discipline in all other aspects of life. Building upon this chapter begins by addressing one of those additional areas that require determination, commitment, and practical effort. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 1 to 2.
O you who covers himself, arise and warn.
This command highlights the transition from personal spiritual development to outward responsibility. After establishing inner discipline, a person is called to act, to convey truth, to encourage what is right, and to warn against what is harmful. This requires not only knowledge but also courage, consistency, and sincerity, as it involves engaging with others and striving to bring about positive change. It is important to understand that receiving guidance, whether in the form of good news or warnings, only becomes beneficial when a person responds to it in a practical manner. Mere acknowledgement without action does not bring about any real change. The one who responds correctly will begin to use the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, in ways that align with Islamic teachings. This practical response transforms knowledge into action, allowing a person to gradually develop a balanced mental and physical state. They will begin to organize their life properly, giving each responsibility its due place, and actively preparing for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. As a result, they experience peace of mind in both worlds, as their life becomes guided by purpose and clarity. On the other hand, the one who hears these warnings and glad tidings but fails to act upon them will continue to misuse the blessings they have been granted. This neglect leads to imbalance, where desires and distractions take precedence over guidance and responsibility. Such a person gradually loses direction, misplaces priorities, and fails to organize their life in a meaningful way. Their lack of preparation for the Day of Judgment further deepens their state of heedlessness. Consequently, this imbalance manifests in the form of stress, confusion, and ongoing difficulty in both this world and the hereafter. Even if such a person appears to enjoy comfort, success, or luxury on the surface, their inner state remains unsettled and deprived of true peace. This demonstrates that real success is not defined by outward appearances, but by one's response to divine guidance and their ability to translate it into consistent, meaningful action. When a person remains firm in obeying Allah, the Exalted, and continues to encourage others towards the same, they will inevitably come into conflict with the worldly desires and ambitions of people. This often leads to rejection and opposition, which may range from criticism and mockery to hostility and harm. Such reactions are a natural consequence of upholding truth in a world where many are attached to their desires. In these situations, a person is commanded to glorify Allah, the Exalted, by maintaining a correct understanding of Him and never attributing anything negative to Him, even though all events occur by His permission. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 3.
And your Lord glorify.
One of the most effective ways to uphold this is by cultivating a positive and balanced mindset. This does not mean ignoring difficulties, but rather interpreting them through the lens of faith and trust in Allah, the Exalted. A person should remind themselves that every hardship could have been far worse, which helps reduce distress and nurtures gratitude. If a challenge relates to worldly matters, they should be thankful that their faith remains intact, as this is the greatest blessing. Instead of focusing solely on the immediate discomfort of a trial, they should reflect on the immense reward promised to those who respond with patience and obedience. When a person experiences the loss of certain blessings, they should consciously reflect on the many blessings that still remain. This shifts their focus from deprivation to appreciation, strengthening their emotional and spiritual resilience. Furthermore, they should remember that every situation contains hidden wisdom that may only become clear over time. What appears harmful in the moment may, in reality, be beneficial in ways that are beyond human understanding. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 216.
But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not.
By internalizing this reality, a person develops trust in the plan of Allah, the Exalted, which brings calmness and clarity even during uncertainty. In conclusion, Reflecting on these principles enables a person to cultivate a positive mindset that is rooted in faith, wisdom, and trust. This mindset is essential for truly glorifying Allah, the Exalted, as it prevents a person from associating negativity with Him, and instead encourages them to see His wisdom in all circumstances. Such an outlook transforms challenges into opportunities for growth and reward. Therefore, rather than viewing life through a lens of deficiency, a person should recognize the abundance within it. The cup is not half empty, but indeed half full. An essential aspect of encouraging others to obey Allah, the Exalted, and warning them against His disobedience, is ensuring that one's outward appearance and conduct are purified, reflecting the values of Islam so that they lead by example. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 4-5.
And your clothing purify, and uncleanliness avoid.
Purification here encompasses more than physical cleanliness. It signifies the overall presentation of oneself, including manners, behavior, speech, and actions, which collectively convey the essence of faith to the outside world. Correctly representing Islam is a responsibility that rests on every person who claims belief. It requires actively learning Islamic teachings and allowing them to shape character and daily conduct. Through this, a person internalizes noble qualities emphasized in Islam, such as generosity, patience, humility, compassion, and integrity, while consciously abandoning traits that harm oneself and society, such as greed, envy, arrogance, and selfishness. When these qualities consistently manifest in speech and behavior, a person becomes a living example of Islam, demonstrating its truth and beauty through action rather than mere words. This is especially important in interactions with those unfamiliar with Islam, as a person's conduct serves as a reflection of the faith itself, potentially attracting others towards obedience to Allah, the Exalted. A sincere and consistent display of these qualities also reinforces the faith of fellow believers, creating an environment that nurtures righteousness, balance, and mutual accountability. Conversely, neglecting this responsibility can lead to a misrepresentation of Islam. When a person's words or actions contradict the principles they advocate, they risk discouraging others from accepting Islamic teachings or acting upon them sincerely. Such failures have real consequences. Misleading others, whether through ignorance, negligence, or intentional behavior, carries accountability both in this life and in the hereafter. By failing to exemplify the guidance of Islam, a person not only harms others spiritually, but also jeopardizes their own path to peace, balance, and success in both worlds. Therefore, purifying one's outward appearance and character is not merely personal refinement. It is a means of fulfilling a moral and spiritual duty, ensuring that the message of Islam is conveyed authentically and effectively through lived example. Another vital aspect of obeying Allah, the Exalted, including the responsibility of encouraging others to do the same, is ensuring that all actions are performed with a sincere and correct intention. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 6.
And do not confer favor to acquire more.
This verse emphasizes that deeds should not be performed for worldly gain, praise, or recognition from others. In a hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 3154, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, warned that those who perform actions for any reason other than to please Allah, the Exalted, will be told on the Day of Judgment to take their reward from the people or things they acted for, rather than receiving reward from Allah, the Exalted. The foundation of all deeds, and indeed the essence of Islam itself, is one's intention. It is the intention which Allah, the Exalted, evaluates, as confirmed in a hadith found in Sahih Bukhari, number 1. A person should therefore ensure that all religious obligations, voluntary acts of worship, and beneficial worldly actions are undertaken solely for the pleasure of Allah, the Exalted. A clear sign of this correct intention is that the person neither expects nor desires gratitude or appreciation from others. If they do, it reflects an improper intention, and the reward of their deeds may be diminished. Moreover, acting with a proper intention protects the heart from bitterness and disappointment. When actions are performed for the sake of people rather than Allah, the Exalted, ungrateful responses are inevitable and often lead to annoyance, resentment, and emotional distress. This is a common occurrence in families, where parents or relatives may fulfill duties for the sake of their children or loved ones, but feel frustrated when their efforts go unappreciated. In contrast, the person who performs actions solely for Allah, the Exalted, fulfills all responsibilities sincerely and remains unaffected by the ingratitude of others. This mindset fosters inner peace, contentment, and general happiness, as the individual knows that Allah, the Exalted, is fully aware of their righteous deeds and will reward them accordingly. Thus, adopting a pure intention is essential not only for spiritual reward but also for emotional and mental well-being. It aligns actions with divine guidance, safeguards the heart from negative emotions, and ensures that one benefits from their efforts in both worlds. Chapter 18 Al-Kahf, verse 110.
So whoever would hope for the meeting with his Lord, let him do righteous work and not associate in the worship of his Lord anyone.
When a person chooses a path guided by the teachings of Allah, the Exalted, rather than following the inclinations of peers, it often provokes discomfort or feelings of inadequacy in others. This is particularly true when others prioritize personal desires, status, or convenience over the obligations outlined in Islamic teachings. Consequently, those who steadfastly uphold their faith may face criticism or disapproval, even from family members who are close to them. Such reactions often stem from a sense of insecurity, as observing someone act righteously can highlight the contrast between their own actions and what they know to be correct. Beyond the immediate circle of family, broader societal influences such as social media, fashion trends, and prevailing cultural norms further challenge those committed to Islamic values. Actions and lifestyles that conform to Islam, such as modesty, self-discipline, and moderation, are frequently portrayed as obstacles to personal ambition, social advancement, or material success. Industries and social structures that profit from indulgence or excess often indirectly oppose Islamic principles, and this opposition is amplified through various online platforms, fostering anti-Islamic sentiments. Such pressures can make practicing faith appear socially inconvenient or even contentious, requiring patience and a strong connection to Allah, the Exalted, to maintain steadfastness. Additionally, individuals who strive to live in accordance with Islamic teachings, balancing personal desires with moderation and responsible use of blessings, often encounter negative responses from those who indulge their impulses without restraint. These individuals, who may act purely on their immediate desires, may attempt to dissuade others from practicing Islam, portraying its teachings as restrictive or outdated. A frequent focus of criticism is visible elements, such as the dress code for women, yet this scrutiny is selective. Professions and roles with strict attire requirements, such as law enforcement, military, healthcare, and business, are rarely subjected to the same level of judgment. This disparity underscores the superficiality of such criticisms, which are motivated less by practical concerns and more by resentment of Islam's emphasis on discipline, self-control, and ethical conduct. Ultimately, the opposition arises from the discipline itself. Those who maintain self-restraint and adhere to righteous principles challenge the unchecked desires of others, making criticism of Islam an outlet for their discomfort. In every scenario, a person must remain resolute in their sincere obedience to Allah, the Exalted, knowing that such commitment brings serenity and protection from harmful influences, even if the benefits are not immediately apparent. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 7.
But for your Lord be patient.
Patience and steadfastness ensure that a person continues to use the blessings granted to them in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. This disciplined approach cultivates a harmonious mental and physical state, allowing them to organize and prioritize all aspects of their life correctly, while preparing adequately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Such adherence promotes tranquility in both worlds, as the person navigates challenges and opportunities with clarity, purpose, and balance. By maintaining steadfast faith and acting consistently in alignment with Islamic teachings, they gain peace of mind and are assured rewards from Allah, the Exalted. In contrast, yielding to the desire for approval from others or ignoring the commands of Allah, the Exalted, inevitably leads to internal turmoil. When one allows the opinions or pressures of peers and society to dictate behavior, they risk misusing the blessings granted to them. This misuse fosters mental and physical imbalance, misplacement of priorities, and failure to prepare for the Day of Judgment. Even if material comforts are present, the lack of spiritual and practical alignment produces stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction, both in this world and the next. To uphold a steadfast mindset in the face of such challenges, one must nurture strong faith. This faith is strengthened by understanding the clear signs and teachings found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and by putting them into practical action. A strong faith allows a person to consistently obey Allah, the Exalted, regardless of external pressures or internal desires. Conversely, a lack of understanding leaves one susceptible to distraction, allowing personal desires to override obedience. Recognizing that surrendering immediate desires in favor of Allah's commands is essential for attaining lasting peace, reinforces the importance of knowledge and practical application. By consistently applying Islamic teachings, a person ensures that they use their blessings correctly, maintain balance in their mental and physical state, and appropriately prioritize all aspects of their life, thereby achieving harmony and preparing effectively for both worldly and eternal responsibilities. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 8.
And when the trumpet is blown.
The key lesson from this verse is that the divine call is inevitable and unavoidable. It is a summons that no one can permanently ignore, for it ultimately leads to resurrection and the final judgment. Every person will respond to this call, whether in a state of preparedness or heedlessness. Therefore, it is crucial for a person to respond now during their worldly life, by sincerely obeying Allah, the Exalted. This involves fulfilling His commands, refraining from His prohibitions, and accepting life's circumstances with patience, in accordance with the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. By doing so, a person ensures that they utilize the blessings granted to them in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, fostering balance, peace, and purpose in both worldly and spiritual matters. Chapter 8 An-Anfal, verse 24.
O you who have believed, respond to Allah and to the Messenger when He calls you to that which gives you life.
Responding to this call in this life prepares a person for the ultimate summons, making the experience of resurrection and final judgment easier to endure. Whoever heeds the call of Allah, the Exalted, in this life, will find the final call on the Day of Judgment easier to bear and respond to. In contrast, those who live heedlessly, misusing the blessings they have been granted and ignoring divine guidance, will face immense difficulty and anguish when confronted by the trumpet's blast. No peace will be granted to them, and responding to this ultimate call will become an overwhelming burden. A person can evade or disregard Allah's call only for a limited time, for the final call is inevitable and unavoidable. Every soul will be summoned sooner or later. Given this certainty, it is only rational to respond today in this life, rather than postpone obedience until it is too late. Should a person hear the trumpet blast while remaining heedless, no repentance or action afterward will avail them, and the consequences that follow will be far more terrifying than anything experienced before. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 9 to 10.
That day will be a difficult day. For the disbelievers, not easy.
The persistent disobedience of Allah, the Exalted, often stems from a preference for worldly desires over practical preparation for accountability. When a person chooses to prioritize comfort, wealth, or personal ambitions above divine guidance, they place themselves in a precarious position. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 11 to 16.
Leave me with the one I created alone, and to whom I granted extensive wealth, and children present with him, and spread everything before him, easing his life. Then he desires that I should add more. No. Indeed, he has been toward our verses obstinate.
In this world, such an attitude directly undermines a person's well-being. Their imbalance, spiritual, mental, and physical, leads them to misplaced priorities and relationships. Everything meant to be a source of stability, such as family, friends, career, and wealth, transforms into stressor. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 17.
I will cover him with arduous torment.
When a person fails to recognize the purpose of their blessings, they often externalize their frustrations, blaming those around them, spouses, children, or colleagues, for the stress they themselves have created. This misplaced anger and resentment can escalate into serious mental health issues, including depression, substance dependency, and even suicidal tendencies. Observing individuals in society, particularly those who enjoy material abundance yet remain spiritually negligent, reveals how luxury and comfort alone do not guarantee peace of mind. Furthermore, the consequences extend beyond this life. Neglecting the practical obedience of Allah, the Exalted, leaves a person unprepared for Judgment Day. While worldly luxuries may temporarily mask spiritual neglect, they cannot shield one from the ultimate accountability. The punishment in the hereafter, for those who persist in disobedience despite clear guidance and blessings, is far greater and eternal. This underscores a vital lesson. True success and balance in life are achieved not through the accumulation of wealth or indulgence in desires, but through obedience, mindfulness, and the correct use of the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted. A person who reflects on this will recognize the necessity of aligning their worldly pursuits with divine guidance, ensuring that wealth, relationships, and daily activities contribute to balance, peace of mind, and preparation for accountability in both worlds. Every person who abandons the divine code of conduct revealed by Allah, the Exalted, and instead follows man-made systems of behavior, does so primarily to satisfy their worldly desires. Human-devised systems, regardless of how sophisticated or rational they may appear, are ultimately shaped by personal inclinations, ambitions, and self-interest. Unlike the divine guidance, which is rooted in wisdom, justice, and mercy, man-made codes of conduct are limited by human understanding and often fail to produce true balance, peace, or moral consistency. These systems cater to the desires of those who create them, prioritizing convenience, personal gain, or social acceptance over long-term well-being and spiritual accountability. Individuals with wealth, influence, or power are often the most resistant to submitting to divine authority. Recognizing the truth of Islam would impose limits on their unrestrained desires, require accountability for their actions, and constrain their freedom to pursue worldly ambitions without consideration of justice or ethics. To protect their privileges, such people not only reject divine guidance for themselves, but also actively discourage others from following it, perpetuating a cycle of self-interest and moral compromise. Historically, the elites of societies were frequently the first to oppose the holy prophets, peace be upon them, precisely because embracing divine law would disrupt their comfort, authority, and indulgence. Their rejection was not due to uncertainty or lack of clarity regarding the truth, for the signs of Allah, the Exalted, were evident. Rather, it was rooted in arrogance, pride, and unwillingness to submit to a higher moral standard. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 18 to 25.
Indeed, he thought and deliberated. So may he be destroyed, for how he deliberated. Then may he be destroyed, for how he deliberated. Then he considered again, then he frowned and scowled, then he turned back and was arrogant, and said, "This is not but magic imitated from others. This is not but the word of a human being."
These verses describe how such individuals repeatedly deceive themselves, convincing themselves that the divine message is mere human invention or imitation, despite clear evidence to the contrary. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had no prior exposure to the revealed scriptures, nor could he have fabricated the knowledge contained within them. Yet the Meccans, who were masters of the Arabic language and had observed the Prophet's character for 40 years, could not deny the authenticity of the Holy Quran. Chapter 29 Al-Ankabut, verse 48.
And you did not recite before it any scripture, nor did you inscribe one with your right hand. Then, i.e., otherwise the falsifiers would have had cause for doubt.
The non-Muslims of Mecca, being highly skilled in the Arabic language, were fully aware that the Holy Quran could not have been the words of a human being. Its eloquence, depth, and unmatched style surpassed anything they could produce, leaving no doubt about its divine origin. Moreover, having spent 40 years observing the character and conduct of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, prior to his announcement of prophethood, they knew him to be a person of honesty and integrity. They were well aware that he had never lied or engaged in deception, which made it impossible for them to credibly claim that he fabricated the Holy Quran. Chapter 10 Yunus, verse 16.
For I had remained among you a lifetime before it. Then will you not reason?
Their rejection was thus not due to a lack of understanding or absence of proof, but rather stemmed from arrogance, obstinacy, and attachment to personal desires and worldly gains. This attitude reflects a broader human tendency to resist divine guidance when it challenges one's own inclinations. Those who persist in such a mindset will inevitably experience imbalance in both their mental and physical states, misplacing priorities and relationships in their lives. This misalignment generates stress, hardship, and confusion, even if they appear to enjoy certain worldly comforts. Furthermore, because this mindset prevents proper preparation for accountability on the Day of Judgment, the consequences in the hereafter will be severe and far more grave than any worldly discomfort they may face. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 26 to 30.
I will drive him into Sakar. And what can make you know what is Sakar? It lets nothing remain and leaves nothing, blackening the skins. Over it are 19 angels.
One of the primary reasons why elements of the hereafter, such as the Day of Judgment and Hell, are described in such vivid detail in Islamic teachings is to counter the false beliefs and misconceptions that previous nations held regarding the afterlife. These nations often dismissed these realities, mocking them or downplaying their significance, largely because of wishful thinking and attachment to worldly desires. They assumed that disobedience to Allah, the Exalted, could coexist with eventual salvation, convincing themselves that they would be spared consequences despite neglecting divine guidance. Such false assumptions manifested in various ways: reliance on the intercession of a righteous person without undertaking personal reform, belief that mere verbal declaration of faith would ensure salvation, presumption that excuses or repentance would automatically be accepted on the Day of Judgment regardless of one's actions, and the notion that the punishments of the hereafter would be no harsher than those experienced in this world. To correct these misunderstandings, Islamic teachings present the realities of the hereafter in a direct and detailed manner, allowing individuals to comprehend their gravity and the necessity of practical preparation. The intent is not to instill fear or despair, but to awaken hearts to the truth and motivate sincere, actionable obedience to Allah, the Exalted. This obedience involves correctly using the blessings that have been granted, whether wealth, health, knowledge, or time, in ways that please Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. By embracing these teachings and internalizing their lessons, a person is protected from complacency and false hopes. They are guided toward a life characterized by sincerity, responsibility, and mindfulness, ensuring that they correctly place everything and everyone within their lives. This practice fosters balance in both mental and physical states, equips them to act justly and wisely, and safeguards them from the consequences of heedlessness. Ultimately, it enables individuals to achieve peace of mind in both this world and the next, while preparing adequately for accountability before Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 30.
Over it are 19 angels.
Allah, the Exalted, revealed certain truths in the Holy Quran, such as the precise number of angels assigned to guard hell, not to confuse or overwhelm people, but as a deliberate test of faith and understanding. These revelations serve multiple purposes. For the people of the book, who were already aware of aspects of these realities through their own scriptures, such statements act as confirmation of the divine origin of the Holy Quran, proving that it comes solely from Allah, the Exalted, and not from a human author. For the believers, these details strengthen their faith, showing the consistency and depth of divine wisdom. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 31.
And we have not made the keepers of the fire, except angels. And we have not made their number except as a trial for those who disbelieve, that those who were given the scripture will be convinced, and those who have believed will increase in faith, and those who were given the scripture and the believers will not doubt.
This test is not merely intellectual. It examines whether individuals accept divine knowledge with trust, even when it exceeds human comprehension. For those with strong faith, such statements reinforce conviction and inspire confidence in the wisdom of Allah, the Exalted. Conversely, those with weak faith or hearts inclined toward arrogance and worldly desire often respond differently. Because obedience to Allah, the Exalted, challenges their personal ambitions and social standing, they question or ridicule what they cannot immediately comprehend. Their objections are often intended not only to satisfy their own doubts, but also to dissuade others from following the path of divine guidance, thereby preserving their influence and social advantage. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 31.
And that those in whose hearts is hypocrisy and the disbelievers will say, what does Allah intend by this as an example?
Such behavior highlights a broader reality. Doubt and skepticism are not always born from genuine curiosity or lack of understanding, but frequently from self-interest, pride, and a desire to resist accountability. The contrast between the sincere believer and the hypocrite or disbeliever illustrates that faith is strengthened not by mere intellectual agreement, but by trusting and acting upon divine guidance, even when its full wisdom is not immediately apparent. Those who respond with humility, obedience, and reflection will find their faith deepened and their hearts at peace, while those who persist in rejection will remain trapped in doubt, instability, and eventual accountability before Allah the Exalted. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 30.
Thus does Allah allow to go astray whom He wills and guides whom He wills. And none knows the soldiers of your Lord except Him. And mention of it, the fire, is not but a reminder to humanity.
The discussion of hell in Islamic teachings is intended not to instill fear for its own sake or to push people into despair, but to serve as a practical reminder of the consequences of misusing the blessings granted by Allah the Exalted. By clearly illustrating the realities of punishment, the teachings motivate individuals to act responsibly, adhere to divine guidance, and cultivate a life of righteousness. The goal is to encourage practical preparation for accountability, guiding people to avoid behaviors and choices that would lead to spiritual, mental, and physical imbalance. In this way, the descriptions of hell function as a corrective tool, emphasizing the importance of obedience, self-discipline, and the wise use of one's resources, ensuring that individuals can attain peace of mind in both worlds while fulfilling their purpose according to the commands of Allah the Exalted. Allah the Exalted then discusses some signs within the creation which indicate His oneness and how He alone must be obeyed at all times. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 32.
No. By the moon.
The moon reflects the light of the sun, illuminating the darkness of the night and serving as a natural guide for people, especially in earlier times when travelers relied upon it to navigate vast deserts and open seas. Even today, despite technological advancements, the oceans remain a primary route for global trade, and the natural order established by the sun and moon continues to play a vital role in maintaining stability and direction. The changing phases of the moon are not random. They are part of a precise system that governs the tides of the oceans and seas. These tides are essential for maintaining ecological balance, supporting marine life, and regulating environmental conditions. Any disturbance in this delicate system would lead to widespread disruption and harm. In addition, the sun and moon provide a reliable means of measuring time, forming the basis for days, months, and years. This measurement is fundamental to organizing human life, agriculture, travel, and countless other aspects of existence. The consistent and predictable movement of these celestial bodies reflects a level of precision that cannot be attributed to chance. Their exact positioning and balance within the solar system ensure that life on Earth can exist and continue in an orderly manner. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 33-34.
And by the night when it departs, and by the morning when it brightens.
The journey of the sun has been arranged in such a precise and consistent manner that the Earth continuously receives a carefully measured balance between light and darkness. This alternation is not random but perfectly regulated, allowing both day and night to fulfill essential roles in sustaining life. The variation in their lengths across the year further reflects a deliberate system, enabling individuals to benefit in different ways depending on the season, whether through productivity, rest, or environmental adaptation. If daylight hours were excessively prolonged, individuals would experience physical and mental exhaustion. Continuous exposure to extended periods of activity would gradually weaken the body and reduce overall well-being. On the other hand, if the night were to dominate most of the day, individuals would struggle to find sufficient time to work, seek provision, or engage in beneficial pursuits such as learning and personal development. A life deprived of adequate daylight would hinder progress and limit opportunities for growth. Similarly, if the night were shortened beyond its current balance, individuals would be deprived of the rest necessary to restore their strength. Sleep is essential for maintaining both physical health and mental clarity, and without sufficient darkness to facilitate proper rest, the human condition would deteriorate. Thus, both day and night are not only complementary but essential in preserving the natural rhythm of life. Beyond human needs, this precise balance also plays a critical role in agriculture and the wider ecosystem. Crops depend on carefully measured cycles of light and darkness to grow properly. Any disruption in this balance would negatively affect plant development, which in turn would harm the food supply for both people and animals. This demonstrates that the harmony between day and night extends beyond individuals and supports the entire chain of life. The flawless coordination of day and night, along with the many other interconnected systems within the universe, serves as a clear indication of the absolute oneness of Allah, the Exalted. If there were multiple creators with independent wills, conflicting intentions would inevitably arise, leading to disorder and instability within the universe. Instead, the consistent harmony and precision observed in these systems point to a single, all-powerful creator whose control is complete and without opposition. Chapter 21, Al-Anbiya, verse 22.
Had there been within them, i.e., the heavens and earth gods besides Allah, they both would have been ruined.
As previously discussed, the detailed descriptions of the hereafter, particularly the mention of hell, are not presented merely for information, but rather to awaken individuals and urge them towards meaningful action. These realities are conveyed so that a person does not remain heedless, but instead reflects deeply and takes practical steps to avoid a harmful end. Chapter 74, Al-Muddaththir, verses 35 to 37.
Indeed, the fire is of the greatest, as a warning to humanity, to whoever wills among you to proceed or stay behind.
Guidance has been made clear, and each individual is given the choice to either move forward towards success or remain behind and face loss. The warning is universal, addressing all of humanity, and it emphasizes personal responsibility in determining one's direction. It is essential to understand that both glad tidings and warnings only produce real benefit when they are met with a sincere and practical response. Mere awareness or acknowledgement is not sufficient. True benefit arises when an individual translates this knowledge into action. Therefore, the one who responds correctly will strive to use the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, in accordance with the guidance laid out in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. By doing so, such a person gradually attains a state of inner peace and stability. This balance manifests in both mental and physical well-being, as their life becomes structured upon purpose, discipline and clarity. They are able to place everything and everyone in their proper position, giving priority to what truly matters, fulfilling responsibilities correctly, and maintaining harmony within their personal and social life. In contrast, the one who fails to respond in a practical manner to these warnings and promises will continue to misuse the blessings they have been granted. Instead of using their abilities, time and resources in beneficial ways, they may direct them towards harmful or unproductive pursuits. This leads to a gradual breakdown in both mental and physical balance. Their life becomes disordered, as priorities are misplaced and responsibilities are neglected. Most importantly, they fail to prepare adequately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment, a reality that cannot be avoided. As a consequence of this neglect, such a person will experience various forms of stress, hardship, and inner turmoil in this life, regardless of any outward appearance of comfort or luxury. Material possessions and temporary pleasures cannot compensate for the absence of true inner peace. Ultimately, this imbalance extends into the hereafter, where the consequences of one's choices become fully apparent. This demonstrates that real success is not defined by outward conditions, but by the correct response to divine guidance and the ability to live a life aligned with it. Whether a person chooses to respond positively or negatively to Islamic teachings rests entirely with them, but this choice is not without consequence. Every individual will inevitably face the outcome of their actions in both this life and the hereafter. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 38.
Every soul for what it has earned will be retained.
Each person is bound to their own deeds, unable to escape the reality of what they have put forward. No action, whether small or great, is lost, and every individual will be held accountable in a manner that is perfectly just. It is therefore essential for a person to regularly examine their own actions. No one, besides Allah the Exalted, has greater awareness of a person's inner state, intentions, and behavior than the individual themselves. When a person engages in sincere self-assessment, they begin to recognize their shortcomings and are naturally driven towards repentance. This reflection softens the heart and encourages a person to turn back from their mistakes while striving to perform righteous deeds. Such deeds involve using the blessings granted by Allah the Exalted in ways that are pleasing to Him, thereby transforming everyday actions into meaningful acts that carry lasting benefit. In contrast, the one who neglects this process of self-evaluation drifts into a state of heedlessness. Without reflection, they continue to misuse their time, abilities, and resources without considering the consequences. Their life becomes shaped by neglect rather than purpose, and they fail to correct their course. When such a person faces the weighing of their deeds on the Day of Judgment, they will find it extremely difficult, as they did not prepare for that moment. This lack of preparation may ultimately result in a severe and painful outcome. The example of a business owner illustrates this reality clearly. A wise and careful business owner regularly reviews their accounts, ensuring that everything is in order and that all obligations, such as financial records and tax responsibilities, are properly fulfilled. This consistent evaluation allows the business to grow steadily and prevents unexpected losses or penalties. On the other hand, a careless business owner who neglects to review their accounts will likely face financial decline and difficulties when required to present accurate records. Failure to prepare properly often results in penalties, increasing the burden upon them. However, the consequences of neglecting one's deeds are far more serious than any worldly penalty. The accountability of the hereafter is not measured in financial terms, but in outcomes that are far greater and more severe. Chapter 99 Az-Zalala, verses 7 to 8.
So whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it, and whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it.
In addition, a person must not only strive to avoid sinful actions, but should also be mindful of how they use the blessings they have been given. Engaging excessively in matters that hold no real benefit may not always be sinful, but such actions still represent lost opportunities. These moments, if used correctly, could have contributed to a person's scale of good deeds. On the Day of Judgment, this realization may lead to deep regret, especially when a person sees how close they may be to success or failure. In some cases, the difference between the two sides of the scales may be extremely small, yet it may determine a person's final outcome. This highlights the importance of using every blessing, time, health, wealth, and ability in a purposeful and beneficial manner, ensuring that nothing is wasted and that one is fully prepared for the moment when all deeds are brought to account. Those who practically prepare for their accountability will correctly use the blessings they have been granted, as outlined in Islamic teachings. This will ensure they obtain a balanced mental and physical state, and correctly place everything and everyone within their life, while adequately preparing for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. And as Allah the Exalted does not demand perfection from people, any mistakes in their deeds will be forgiven by Him, so that they achieve peace of mind in both worlds. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 38 to 40.
Every soul for what it has earned will be retained, except the companions of the right in gardens.
Allah the Exalted further warns against neglecting correct behavior by drawing attention to an unavoidable and decisive event. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 39 to 43.
Except the companions of the right, who will be in gardens questioning each other about the criminals, asking them, "What put you into Sakar?" They will say, "We were not of those who prayed."
This scene presents a powerful contrast between those who attain safety and those who face punishment. The people of success will question those who failed, and the first reason given for their downfall is not the absence of belief being mentioned initially, but their failure to establish prayer. This highlights that actions carry decisive weight, and that a person's ultimate outcome is tied to what they practiced in their daily life. A claim of belief in Allah, the Exalted, only brings real benefit when it is supported by consistent and sincere obedience. Chapter 74, Al-Muddaththir, verse 43.
They will say, "We were not of those who prayed."
Establishing the obligatory prayers is repeatedly stressed in Islamic teachings, because it is the central foundation upon which all other good actions are built. It forms the core of a person's connection with Allah, the Exalted, and acts as a constant means of maintaining discipline, awareness, and sincerity. However, true prayer is not limited to physical movements or recitation. It is meant to be performed with deep awareness, humility, and reflection, allowing the person to internalize the reality of their return to Allah, the Exalted. Each posture within the prayer serves as a reminder of the stages and scenes of the Day of Judgment. When a person stands in prayer, they are reminded of the moment when all people will stand before Allah, the Exalted, awaiting their reckoning. Chapter 83, Al-Mutaffifin, verses 4-6.
Do they not think that they will be resurrected? For a tremendous day, the day when mankind will stand before the Lord of the worlds.
When a person bows during prayer, it reminds them of those who will be criticized for refusing to bow during their worldly life. Chapter 77, Al-Mursalat, verse 48.
And when it is said to them, "Bow in prayer," they do not bow.
This criticism is not limited to the physical act, but extends to a broader unwillingness to submit to the commands of Allah, the Exalted, in all aspects of life. It reflects arrogance and neglect, which ultimately lead to regret. When a person prostrates, they experience the highest level of humility, placing themselves in the lowest physical position before their Creator. This act serves as a reminder of a moment on the Day of Judgment when people will be called to prostrate. Yet those who fail to do so sincerely in this life will be unable to respond. Chapter 68, Al-Kalam, verses 42-43.
On the day when matters become dire, they will be invited to prostrate themselves but will be prevented from doing so. Their eyes humbled, humiliation will cover them. And they used to be invited to prostration while they were sound.
When a person sits during prayer, it reflects the state in which all people will be gathered before Allah, the Exalted, awaiting judgment with fear and uncertainty. Chapter 45, Al-Jathir, verse 28.
And you will see every nation kneeling from fear. Every nation will be called to its record and told, "Today you will be recompensed for what you used to do."
The one who performs prayer while reflecting on these meanings will establish it in the manner intended. This type of prayer shapes a person's character and influences their behavior beyond the moments of worship. It acts as a safeguard, preventing them from falling into wrongdoing and guiding them towards what is correct. Chapter 29, Al-Ankabut, verse 45.
Indeed, prayer prohibits immorality and wrongdoing.
Through this continuous cycle of remembrance and reflection, a person is guided to live in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, not only during prayer but throughout their entire day. This obedience is demonstrated by using the blessings they have been granted in ways that are pleasing to Him, in accordance with the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. The next response given by the people of hell identifies another essential good deed which they failed to perform, further demonstrating that a person's final outcome is not based on inward belief alone, but on belief that is supported and proven through outward actions. Chapter 74, Al-Muddaththir, verse 44.
Nor did we used to feed the poor.
A person is not only required to fulfill their personal acts of worship, but must also demonstrate compassion, generosity, and concern for others, especially those who are vulnerable within society. In general, a person must ensure they support those who are considered socially weak, such as orphans and widows, according to their ability and resources. In the present time, providing such support has become extremely accessible. A person can arrange sponsorship for an orphan or assist a widow within minutes through simple online means. In many cases, the financial commitment required is small, often less than what is regularly spent on non-essential matters. This removes any significant barrier and leaves little excuse for neglecting this responsibility. This act of supporting the needy is not only beneficial for those receiving help, but it also brings continuous support from Allah, the Exalted, to the one who gives. This is confirmed in a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 6853. In addition, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, has taught that the one who takes care of an orphan will be granted closeness to him in paradise. This has been mentioned in a hadith found in Sahih Bukhari, number 6005. Furthermore, caring for those in need, such as a widow, carries immense reward, as the one who does so is granted the same reward as a person who spends their nights in prayer and their days in fasting. This has been mentioned in a hadith found in Sahih Bukhari, number 6006. This guidance highlights a practical path for those who may find it difficult to engage in voluntary acts of worship, such as night prayers or regular voluntary fasting. By fulfilling the needs of others, a person can attain great reward with actions that are within their capacity, while also benefiting society in a meaningful way. It is also essential to recognize that whatever a person possesses, such as wealth, health, or ability, has been granted by Allah the Exalted as a trust rather than an absolute possession. These blessings are not owned independently, but are given temporarily and must be used in a manner that is pleasing to their true owner. In this sense, they resemble a loan that must be repaid. The repayment is fulfilled by using these blessings in obedience to Allah the Exalted, including assisting those who are in need. When a person understands this reality, it transforms their attitude. They no longer view their acts of charity as a favor they are doing for others. Instead, they recognize that they are fulfilling a responsibility and benefiting themselves. In truth, Allah the Exalted has favored them by granting them the means to give, and by providing them with opportunities to earn reward. Likewise, the one receiving help plays a role in this process, as their acceptance allows the giver to gain reward. Without those in need, many avenues of reward would not exist. Remembering these perspectives protects a person from arrogance, pride, or expecting recognition in return for their actions. It ensures that their intention remains sincere and that their reward is preserved. Finally, supporting the needy is not limited to financial assistance alone. It includes fulfilling any lawful need that a person may have, whether it is emotional support, physical assistance, or financial help. Offering comfort, guidance, time, or effort are all forms of aiding others. Therefore, no person can excuse themselves from this responsibility based on limited wealth, as every individual possesses some ability through which they can support others. Another deed is then mentioned, further reinforcing the necessity of correcting one's actions, even when a person claims belief in Allah the Exalted. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 45.
And we used to enter into vain activities.
This statement reflects a pattern of neglect where time and energy were spent on matters that held no real benefit. While such activities may not always be classified as sinful, they still represent a serious loss when considered in light of accountability. The focus is not only on avoiding what is unlawful, but also on using one's time and resources in the most meaningful and purposeful way. A key aspect of piety is the conscious effort to distance oneself from matters that, while technically permissible, may lead to what is harmful or unlawful. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 187.
These are the limits set by Allah, so do not approach them.
The emphasis here is not merely on avoiding crossing the limits, but on staying away from approaching them altogether. This creates a protective boundary that safeguards a person from gradually slipping into what is prohibited. This guidance is not isolated, but consistent throughout the Holy Quran, reinforcing the importance of caution and self-discipline. A clear example of this principle is found in the command given to the Holy Prophet Adam, peace be upon him. Chapter 7 Al-Araf, verse 19.
And O Adam, dwell, you and your wife in paradise and eat from wherever you will, but do not approach this tree, lest you be among the wrongdoers.
Even though approaching the tree was not the same as committing the prohibited act, it was still discouraged to prevent the possibility of falling into it. This demonstrates that prevention is a fundamental principle, where distance is maintained from anything that could lead to harm, even if the initial step appears harmless. There are many examples which show that lawful does not always mean advisable. Approaching the limits set by Allah, the Exalted, may not in itself be unlawful, but it carries risk. Certain permissible actions, especially those that are vain, should be avoided because they can gradually lead a person towards what is unlawful. For instance, engaging in vain speech may seem harmless, yet it often develops into harmful speech, such as backbiting or lying. Similarly, excessive or careless spending of wealth can begin as something small, but may eventually lead to wastefulness, which is condemned. Chapter 17 Al-Isra, verse 27.
Indeed, the wasteful are brothers of the devils, and ever has Satan been to his Lord ungrateful.
In many cases, individuals who become misguided do not do so suddenly, but rather through a gradual process. They begin by drawing closer to harmful environments or influences without directly engaging in wrongdoing. Over time, repeated exposure weakens their resistance, making it easier for them to eventually fall into the very actions they once avoided. For example, a person who frequently accompanies those who engage in drinking alcohol may gradually become desensitized to it, increasing the likelihood that they will eventually participate themselves. This gradual decline illustrates the importance of avoiding not only unlawful actions, but also the pathways that lead towards them. This cautious approach has been emphasized by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in a hadith found in Jami at-Tirmidhi, number 2451. It explains that a person cannot truly reach a state of piety until they are able to abandon certain lawful things out of fear that these may lead them to what is unlawful. This highlights a deeper level of discipline, where a person exercises restraint even in matters that are permissible, for the sake of safeguarding their overall state. Therefore, a person must not only strive to avoid what is clearly unlawful, but must also be mindful of engaging in excessive or unnecessary permissible activities, especially those that are vain. This awareness ensures that they remain firm in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, by consistently using the blessings they have been granted in accordance with the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This way of life forms the foundation of true righteousness, leading to a balanced mental and physical state, where responsibilities are fulfilled, priorities are correctly arranged, and inner peace is maintained. In contrast, the one who neglects this understanding and allows themselves to approach or exceed the limits set by Allah, the Exalted, often becomes absorbed in excessive lawful activities, particularly vain ones. This increases the likelihood of slipping into unlawful behavior, while also leading to the misuse of the blessings they have been granted. Over time, this results in an unbalanced life, where priorities are misplaced, responsibilities are neglected, and preparation for the Day of Judgment is overlooked. Even if such a person experiences moments of entertainment or outward comfort, it does not bring lasting peace. Instead, it contributes to stress, difficulty, and instability in both this life and the hereafter, as their actions lead them away from what truly benefits them. Allah, the Exalted, then warns against one of the major causes of misguidance, bad companionship, through the tongues of the inhabitants of hell. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 45.
And we used to enter into vain activities with those who engaged in it.
Human beings are, by their very nature, deeply social, and their beliefs, habits, and character are continually shaped by the people with whom they choose to associate. This influence is not always immediately visible. At times it appears gradually, subtly affecting thoughts and behavior over a period of time. Yet whether immediate or gradual, its impact is undeniable. Companionship is therefore never neutral. It is a powerful force that can elevate a person or lead them astray, shaping their values, emotional state, and ultimately their destiny. This reality has been affirmed by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in a hadith found in Sunan Abu Dawood, number 4833. It illustrates that a person is inevitably influenced by those around them, absorbing aspects of their speech, conduct, and outlook. The analogy is clear. One who spends time in a place of pleasant fragrance will naturally carry that scent, while one who remains in a place filled with smoke or impurity will inevitably be affected by it. In the same way, a person's spiritual and moral condition is shaped by the environment and company they keep. Those who choose to associate with the righteous and sincere will find their hearts gradually aligned with goodness. Such companions serve as a source of guidance, reminding them of their responsibilities and encouraging them to use the blessings granted to them in a manner that is pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. Their presence fosters an environment of sincerity, humility, and accountability, encouraging one to remain conscious of their ultimate return to Allah, the Exalted, and their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Being in such company brings about a transformation in a person's inner state. Their intentions become more refined, their actions more deliberate, and their priorities more balanced. They develop a sense of harmony in their lives, where mental clarity, physical discipline, and spiritual awareness work together. This balanced state leads to a sense of contentment and purpose, as the person begins to align their life with meaningful and lasting values rather than temporary desires. On the other hand, those who keep company with individuals who are heedless or misguided are at risk of gradually adopting similar traits. This influence may begin in small ways, such as adopting certain habits, attitudes, or ways of thinking, but over time it can significantly weaken one's spiritual awareness. As this influence grows, it may distance a person from the remembrance of Allah, the Exalted, and reduce their sensitivity to right and wrong. Such individuals become more susceptible to following their desires without restraint, misusing the blessings they have been given, and neglecting their true purpose. Their sense of priority becomes distorted, leading them to place importance on matters that offer little or no lasting benefit, while neglecting what truly matters. This imbalance affects their emotional and mental state, as well as their overall outlook on life. When a person turns away from obedience to Allah, the Exalted, and instead pursues temporary pleasures and misguided aims, they begin to experience an inner emptiness. No amount of wealth, status, or outward comfort can fill the void created by spiritual neglect. Although they may appear successful or satisfied from the outside, internally they often struggle with anxiety, instability, and dissatisfaction. Their relationships may become strained, their decisions confused, and their hearts burdened with a sense of unease and regret. The consequences of poor companionship therefore extend beyond this life. It leads to confusion, misdirection, and distress in this world, and it contributes to a harmful outcome in the hereafter. In contrast, righteous companionship nurtures the heart, strengthens faith, and supports a person in maintaining balance in all aspects of life. It encourages discipline, sincerity, and a constant awareness of accountability. For this reason, it is essential for a person to be careful and deliberate in choosing their companions. By seeking the company of those who remind them of Allah, the Exalted, and who embody good character and righteous conduct, a person places themselves in an environment that supports growth, stability, and success. Such companionship becomes a means of protection, guidance, and continual improvement, helping a person remain firm on the path of truth and prepared for their ultimate return. As a sequence of shortcomings has been presented, each reflecting neglected responsibilities, the next statement may be understood as the practical consequence of such a way of life. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 46.
And we used to deny the day of recompense.
This denial is not limited to an open verbal rejection, but can also be understood as a practical denial through one's actions. A person may verbally affirm belief in accountability, yet live in a manner that shows no preparation for it. When actions do not align with claimed belief, the reality is that the belief has not been fully translated into practice. This results in a life where accountability is acknowledged in words, but ignored in conduct. Such a state reflects a deeper issue, a disconnect between belief and behavior. A person who truly recognizes the certainty of being held accountable would naturally adjust their priorities, actions, and use of time and resources. However, when this awareness is absent in practice, it becomes evident that the reality of the Day of Judgment has not been taken seriously. Therefore, it is necessary for a person to guard themselves against this outcome by ensuring that their verbal declaration of faith is supported by consistent and practical action. This involves actively preparing for the Day of Judgment by using the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, in ways that are aligned with the guidance found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Such preparation includes fulfilling obligations, avoiding prohibitions, and using one's abilities, time, and wealth in meaningful and beneficial ways. When a person lives with this awareness, their actions reflect their belief, and their life becomes a true expression of their accountability. This alignment between belief and action ensures that they are not among those who deny the day of recompense in practice, but rather among those who affirm it through sincere preparation and responsible conduct. In general, the Day of Judgment is an inevitable reality that must take place. When a person reflects upon the universe, they observe a remarkable level of balance in every aspect of creation. This balance is not accidental, but carefully maintained in a way that allows life to function and continue in an orderly manner. For instance, the Earth exists at an exact and suitable distance from the Sun. If it were positioned even slightly closer, the heat would be unbearable and life would not be sustainable. If it were slightly further away, the cold would prevent the existence of life as it is known. This precise positioning demonstrates a deliberate and controlled system. Similarly, the water cycle operates in a perfectly regulated manner. Water evaporates from the oceans, rises into the atmosphere, condenses into clouds, and returns to the earth as rain. This continuous cycle ensures that water is constantly redistributed, allowing plants, animals, and people to survive. Without such a balanced system, life on Earth would quickly come to an end. Even the structure of the ground reflects this balance. It is firm and stable enough to support large buildings and structures, yet it is also soft and adaptable enough to allow seeds to grow and roots to spread. This dual characteristic shows a carefully designed balance between strength and flexibility, ensuring both stability and growth. There are countless other examples within the universe that point clearly to the existence of a creator and to the presence of precise balance in creation. However, when one observes human actions, a clear imbalance becomes evident. In many cases, individuals who are oppressive and unjust are seen escaping punishment in this world, while those who are oppressed often endure hardship without receiving full justice. Likewise, those who sincerely strive to obey Allah, the Exalted, frequently face difficulties and may receive only a limited portion of reward in this life, while those who openly disobey may enjoy comfort and luxury. This apparent imbalance in human affairs contrasts with the perfect balance seen in the rest of creation. Just as balance is maintained in the natural world, it follows that balance must also exist in the realm of accountability. Since full justice is not consistently observed in this world, it must be established in another time and place, which is the Day of Judgment. Allah, the Exalted, is fully capable of rewarding and punishing people in this world in a complete and immediate manner. However, one of the wisdoms behind delaying full reward and punishment is to provide individuals with repeated opportunities to reflect, repent, and correct their behavior. By allowing time and space, individuals are given the chance to recognize their mistakes and return to what is right before facing ultimate accountability. At the same time, believers are not granted full reward in this world because this world is not the final place of reward. The true and complete reward is reserved for the hereafter, where it will be given in full measure. This also serves an important purpose: belief in the unseen. Faith is defined by believing in realities that cannot be directly perceived by the senses. If a person were to witness all reward and punishment fully in this world, the element of unseen belief would be diminished, and the unique quality of faith would be lost. Therefore, a person maintains a balanced state by holding both fear and hope. Fear of accountability prevents a person from committing sins, while hope in the mercy and reward of Allah, the Exalted, encourages them to perform righteous deeds. This balance guides a person towards a disciplined and meaningful life. In order for the day of recompense to occur, this current world must come to an end. Accountability requires that actions be complete before judgment is given. As long as people continue to act, their record remains open. Therefore, the Day of Judgment cannot take place until every person's actions have concluded. This clearly indicates that the current world is temporary and will eventually come to an end. When a person reflects upon this reality, their faith in the Day of Judgment becomes stronger and more certain. This increased awareness encourages them to prepare for that day by using the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, in the correct manner, as guided by the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Through this preparation, a person achieves a balanced state in both mind and body, places everything and everyone in their proper position within their life, and ultimately attains peace, stability, and success in both this world and the hereafter. Chapter 45 Al-Jatiyah, verse 22.
For Allah created the heavens and the earth for a purpose, so that every soul may be paid back for what it has committed, and none will be wronged.
A significant cause of neglect in practically preparing for accountability is the tendency to delay action while holding on to the false assumption of having ample time ahead. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 46 to 47.
And we used to deny the day of recompense, until there came to us the certainty.
This certainty refers to the moment when death arrives, leaving no opportunity for return or correction. The verse reflects how a person may live in a state of denial, postponing preparation until it is too late, only to realize the truth at the moment when action is no longer possible. Death is an absolute certainty, yet its timing remains unknown. Because of this, it is rational and necessary for a person who believes in the hereafter to prioritize preparation for it, above matters that are uncertain and may never occur. Despite this, many people, despite their verbal affirmation that the world is temporary and the hereafter is permanent, reverse this priority. They invest their time and effort into planning for future possibilities, such as marriage, children, or retirement, while delaying preparation for the hereafter, which is certain. This reversal of priorities is inconsistent with their stated beliefs. A person may claim certainty in the hereafter, yet their actions suggest otherwise. Regardless of how a person behaves or what they choose to prioritize, they will ultimately face judgment for their deeds. There is no escape from this reality. A person should not be deceived into thinking that they will prepare later, at a more suitable time. This type of thinking creates a cycle of delay, where each day is postponed until suddenly death arrives without warning. At that point, the opportunity to act has ended, and the individual leaves this world carrying regrets that can no longer benefit them. The issue, therefore, is not whether death will occur, as that is unavoidable, but whether a person has prepared for it in the correct manner. True preparation requires aligning one's life with the teachings of Islam, fulfilling the commands of Allah, the Exalted, avoiding His prohibitions, and responding to life's challenges with patience, as taught through the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This approach ensures that the blessings granted to a person are used in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. Such preparation can only take place when a person consciously prioritizes the hereafter over matters that are uncertain and temporary. When a person focuses on what is certain and eternal, their actions naturally align with what will benefit them after death. A person must also avoid being misled by the way this world often grants multiple opportunities to correct mistakes. While this may be true in worldly matters, it does not apply to death. When death arrives, there are no second chances, no delays, and no opportunities to return and make corrections. Furthermore, a person should be mindful of the state in which they live, as this is the state in which they are most likely to die. If a person lives in a state of heedlessness, neglecting their duties and ignoring the reality of the hereafter, they are at risk of dying in that same state. In addition, this state may continue beyond death, as individuals are raised in the condition in which they died. A hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 7232, highlights the seriousness of this principle, indicating that a person will be raised according to the condition they were in at the time of death. This reinforces the importance of maintaining awareness, sincerity, and consistent preparation throughout one's life. Therefore, a person must take advantage of their time, acting with urgency and purpose, ensuring that their actions today align with the outcome they hope to achieve in the hereafter. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 42 to 47.
And asking them, "What put you into Sakar?" They will say, "We were not of those who prayed, nor did we used to feed the poor. And we used to enter into vain discourse with those who engaged in it. And we used to deny the day of recompense, until there came to us the certainty."
As previously discussed, these verses emphasize the necessity of supporting a verbal declaration of faith in Allah, the Exalted, with corresponding actions, as words alone carry little weight without practical confirmation. A person may express belief, but that belief must be reflected in conduct, choices, and daily behavior to hold true significance. It is important to recognize a distinction between how a person is regarded in this world and how they will be judged in the hereafter. In this world, a person is treated according to their outward declaration. If they verbally profess faith, they are considered a person of that faith according to worldly laws and social understanding. However, in the hereafter, the judgment will be based entirely on what lies within a person's heart, something that is hidden from everyone except Allah, the Exalted. Therefore, if a person claims belief in Allah, the Exalted, and in accountability on the Day of Judgment, yet fails to support that claim with sincere and consistent actions, their inner reality may not match their outward words. In such a case, their claim may be empty, and they may not possess genuine faith in their heart. As a result, their final outcome will be determined based on their true inner state, and they may be treated accordingly on the Day of Judgment, regardless of how they were perceived in this world. In addition to this, a person who neglects to align their actions with their claimed belief places themselves at serious risk of losing their faith altogether before death. Faith is not a static condition. It requires continuous effort, care, and nurturing. It can be strengthened through obedience and weakened through neglect. Faith may be compared to a delicate flame that must be carefully maintained. Just as a flame requires a steady supply of fuel to continue burning, faith requires ongoing acts of obedience to remain strong. If a flame is left unattended or deprived of what sustains it, it gradually weakens and eventually extinguishes. In a similar way, if a person neglects their spiritual responsibilities and fails to engage in actions that support and reinforce their faith, their inner light may diminish over time. When faith weakens or is extinguished, the consequences are severe. It leaves a person without guidance, direction, and protection from harmful actions and thoughts. This loss represents one of the greatest dangers a person can face, as it affects both their present life and their outcome in the hereafter. Therefore, it is essential for a person to actively nurture their faith through consistent obedience, ensuring that their belief is not only spoken with the tongue but firmly established through action and sincerity in the heart. Allah, the Exalted, warns against a form of wishful thinking, in which a person continues to disobey Him while falsely believing that someone else will secure their salvation. Chapter 74, Al-Muddaththir, verse 48.
So there will not benefit them the intercession of any intercessors.
This clearly establishes that reliance upon others, without personal responsibility, is not a means of salvation. Each individual will stand accountable for their own actions, and no one, regardless of their status, closeness, or righteousness, can remove that accountability from another person. Chapter 31, Luqman, verse 33.
O mankind, fear your Lord, and fear a day when no father will avail his son, nor will a son avail his father at all.
And chapter 53, An-Najm, verse 39.
And that there is not for man except that good for which he strives.
This reinforces the idea that a person will only receive the outcome of their own efforts. Salvation is not something that can be passively acquired through association with others, but must be actively earned through sincere effort and righteous action. Although intercession on the Day of Judgment is a real and established concept, it is important to understand that it will only benefit those who have already made sincere efforts to obey Allah, the Exalted, in this world. Intercession does not replace personal responsibility. Rather, it complements the efforts of those who have strived to live according to divine guidance. Chapter 40, Ghafir, verse 8.
Our Lord, and admit them to gardens of perpetual residence which you have promised them, and whoever was righteous among their forefathers, their spouses and their offspring.
If a person adopts a careless attitude, neglecting obedience to Allah, the Exalted, while assuming that someone else will save them, they are engaging in a form of deception against themselves. This attitude diminishes the seriousness of accountability and reflects a lack of sincerity. It also contradicts the purpose of intercession, which is meant to support those who have made genuine efforts, not those who have ignored their obligations. Such a person may even find that those they hoped would intercede for them instead testify against them. Chapter 25, Al-Furqan, verse 30.
And the Messenger has said, O my Lord, Indeed, my people have taken this Quran as a thing abandoned.
This verse applies specifically to those who follow Islam, as they are the only community that has recognized and accepted the Holy Quran. In contrast, non-Muslims, having not accepted its guidance, cannot be described as having abandoned it. The outcome for any person among the Muslims against whom the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, testifies on the Day of Judgment is evident. Therefore, a person must avoid relying on others for their salvation while neglecting their own responsibilities. Instead, they should focus on sincerely obeying Allah, the Exalted, by using the blessings they have been granted in ways that are pleasing to Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This was the attitude of the companions, may Allah be pleased with them. Despite being in the presence of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and having hope in his intercession on the Day of Judgment, they did not rely solely on that hope. Instead, they combined hope with action, striving to obey Allah, the Exalted, and to live according to His guidance. Their approach serves as a clear example of how a person should balance hope, fear, and action in their journey towards the hereafter. Despite the abundance of signs already discussed, both within the natural world and within Islamic teachings that emphasize the necessity of obeying Allah, the Exalted, as the only path to true peace of mind in both worlds, many people still choose to turn away. This turning away often occurs because the guidance conflicts with their personal desires, ambitions, or attachments to worldly life. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 49.
Then what is the matter with them that they are from the reminder turning away?
The description of the message as a reminder is significant, as it indicates that the teachings are not introducing something entirely foreign, but rather calling attention back to something already known and recognized at a deeper level. Islamic teachings function as a reminder because they align with the natural disposition upon which human beings have been created. A way of life that is in harmony with this natural state will feel balanced and coherent, supporting both mental and physical well-being. In contrast, when a person follows a system of beliefs or behaviors that contradicts this innate disposition, it often leads to inattention. This can result in confusion, emotional strain, and a lack of balance in life, as the individual attempts to conform to something that does not align with their inner nature. One of the notable observations is that many individuals who accept Islam after following other beliefs or lifestyles often describe a deep sense of recognition and clarity upon encountering its teachings. Even without prior exposure, they may feel as though they are reconnecting with something already familiar. This is because the guidance of Islam does not impose an artificial or unnatural structure upon a person. Instead, it restores them to their original state, aligning their outward actions with their inner disposition. This restoration brings about harmony, as it aligns a person's beliefs, actions, and inner state. When a person lives in accordance with this guidance, they are more likely to experience stability, clarity, and a sense of purpose. Their mental, emotional, and physical states become more balanced, as their life is guided by principles that are in harmony with their nature. On the other hand, systems that are disconnected from this natural disposition may impose expectations or behaviors that create internal conflict. This can lead to inconsistency in behavior, emotional distress, and a sense of dissatisfaction. Over time, this imbalance may affect a person's overall well-being, as they struggle to reconcile their actions with their inner sense of truth. However, the ability to recognize this harmony depends greatly on a person's approach. If a person approaches guidance with sincerity, openness, and a willingness to reflect, they are more likely to perceive its wisdom. But if they approach it with prejudice, arrogance, or attachment to inherited beliefs without examination, their perception may be clouded. These barriers can prevent a person from recognizing the truth, even when it is clearly presented. When approached with sincerity, divine guidance reveals itself not as a burden, but as a means of restoration. It brings balance where there was imbalance, clarity where there was confusion, and peace where there was unrest. It reconnects a person with their true purpose, and guides them towards a life that is meaningful and aligned with their ultimate destination. In this sense, the reminder serves a dual purpose. It reflects back to a person their inherent nature, and it directs them towards the correct path. It acts as both a mirror and a guide, helping a person understand themselves while also guiding them towards peace, stability, and success in both this life and the hereafter. But since obeying Allah, the Exalted, often stands in opposition to the personal desires and ambitions of people, many choose to turn away from it and instead adopt systems and codes of conduct designed to align with their own preferences. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 49 to 51.
Then what is the matter with them that they are from the reminder turning away, as if they were alarmed donkeys, fleeing from a lion?
This imagery powerfully illustrates the intensity of their avoidance. Just as frightened animals flee in panic from danger without reflection, some people instinctively turn away from guidance, not because it is harmful, but because it challenges their desires and requires discipline. Their reaction is one of avoidance rather than engagement, revealing an inner resistance to change and accountability. Regardless of how advanced a society becomes, and no matter how much knowledge it acquires in various fields, including psychology, biology, and the functioning of the human body, it remains beyond human capacity to develop a code of conduct that is perfectly aligned with human nature in every possible situation. Human understanding is limited and constantly evolving. New discoveries are made over time, and what is considered correct or beneficial in one period may later be revised or corrected. This demonstrates the inherent limitations in human knowledge and the inability to create a flawless and universal system of guidance. Even with extensive research into areas such as the brain, emotions, and behavior, humanity cannot fully comprehend every aspect of human existence, nor can it account for every possible circumstance that individuals or societies may encounter. As a result, any man-made system will inevitably contain gaps, inconsistencies, or imbalances that may lead to unintended consequences. Such systems may work in certain situations, but they cannot guarantee harmony, justice, and stability in all cases. Only Allah, the Exalted, possesses complete and perfect knowledge. As the creator of all things, His knowledge encompasses everything, past, present, and future. Nothing is hidden from Him, and nothing is beyond His awareness. Because of this, He alone is fully qualified to provide a comprehensive and flawless code of conduct for humanity. His guidance distinguishes clearly between what is beneficial and what is harmful, what is good and what is evil, and what leads to peace and what leads to distress. This divine guidance is not limited by time, place, or circumstance. It is designed to remain applicable in all situations, for all people, at all times. It provides a consistent and reliable framework that leads to balance, both at an individual level and within society as a whole. When followed correctly, it produces clarity in decision-making, fairness in relationships, and stability in both mental and physical states. Historical experience shows that when this divine guidance is implemented properly in the lives of individuals and communities, it leads to the establishment of justice, peace, and order. Societies flourish when they align themselves with these principles, as they are grounded in wisdom and perfect knowledge. Therefore, a person must recognize the value of the guidance provided by Allah, the Exalted, and accept it as the most beneficial path for their well-being, even when certain aspects of it may contradict personal desires. True success lies in prioritizing what is correct over what is desired. This can be understood by comparing it to a patient who trusts a skilled physician. A wise patient follows the advice of their doctor, even when the treatment involves taking unpleasant medication or following a strict regimen. The patient understands that the guidance is for their own benefit, even if it is difficult to follow. In the same way, a person should place their trust in the guidance of Allah, the Exalted, recognizing that it is designed for their ultimate well-being, even when it requires sacrifice and discipline. Allah, the Exalted, then exposes the inner motives of certain leaders among the non-Muslims of Mecca, who, despite recognizing the truthfulness of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, still chose to reject him. Their rejection was not due to a lack of clarity in the message, but rather due to envy and a desire for personal status and authority. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 52.
Rather, every person among them desires that he would be given scriptures spread about.
This verse reveals a hidden attitude within them. Instead of submitting to the truth as it was revealed, They wished that revelation would come to each of them individually, in a manner that would grant them personal recognition, authority, or independence. In other words, they were not rejecting revelation itself, but rather rejecting its current form because it elevated someone other than themselves. The noblemen among the non-Muslims of Mecca were often individuals of status, wealth, and influence within their society. They were accustomed to leadership, and their identity was tied to their social position. When the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was chosen as a messenger by Allah, the Exalted, they struggled to accept that someone they considered socially beneath them in terms of wealth, yet noble in lineage and character, was granted such a high and honored position. Their resistance was therefore rooted in pride and envy. Instead of acknowledging the truth, they allowed their desire for power and control to cloud their judgment. The message itself was not the issue. Rather, it was the fact that accepting it meant acknowledging the authority of someone they were unwilling to follow. This attitude demonstrates a common spiritual disease. When personal ambition and ego take precedence over truth, a person may reject what they inwardly recognize as correct. Such individuals may understand the validity of a message intellectually, yet still refuse to submit due to emotional and social barriers. This leads to inconsistency between what they know and how they act. The example of these leaders serves as a warning that rejection of truth is not always due to ignorance. At times, it is due to internal resistance, such as pride, jealousy, or attachment to status. These traits can prevent a person from benefiting from clear guidance, even when it is presented to them with clarity. Therefore, a person must remain cautious of allowing personal desires, social standing, or comparisons with others to interfere with their acceptance of truth. True guidance requires humility, the willingness to accept and follow the truth regardless of who presents it. In this way, a person safeguards themselves from being led astray by their own ego and instead aligns themselves with the path that leads to peace, balance, and success in both worlds. Allah, the Exalted, then draws attention to a critical underlying cause of misguidance, the absence of true awareness and fear of accountability on the Day of Judgment. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 53.
No, but they do not fear the hereafter.
When a person does not genuinely fear the hereafter, their priorities become distorted, and their behavior is no longer guided by responsibility or restraint. This lack of fear weakens the internal check that normally governs a person's actions, leading them to act without considering consequences beyond this world. The connection between belief in accountability and the establishment of peace, both internally and socially, is fundamental. When a person firmly believes that every action will be accounted for, this belief shapes their conduct in a profound way. It instills a sense of responsibility over how they use the blessings granted to them by Allah, the Exalted, such as wealth, health, knowledge, and authority. These blessings are then viewed as trusts rather than personal entitlements. In the absence of this belief, however, a person may begin to misuse these blessings. Wealth can turn into a means of selfish accumulation, rather than generosity and support for others. Authority can become a tool for oppression instead of justice. Even personal relationships can be influenced by self-interest rather than sincerity and fairness. This misuse creates imbalance within the individual, as their actions are no longer aligned with a higher sense of purpose. This internal imbalance then extends outward into society. When many individuals adopt this mindset, the collective result is widespread injustice. Rights are neglected, trust is eroded, and systems begin to break down. People may begin to act dishonestly when they believe they can avoid consequences in this life. This leads to an environment where oppression becomes more common and fairness becomes difficult to maintain. On the other hand, when belief in accountability on the Day of Judgment is present and deeply rooted, it acts as a strong moral restraint. It reminds a person that they are always accountable before Allah, the Exalted, regardless of whether others see their actions or not. This awareness encourages honesty, justice, and integrity, even in situations where no worldly authority is present to enforce rules. This belief also brings balance to a person's internal state. When a person acts with awareness of accountability, they are more likely to use their blessings correctly. Their decisions become more measured, their actions more deliberate, and their intentions more sincere. This creates a sense of inner peace, as their life is aligned with a higher purpose and guided by a clear understanding of responsibility. At the societal level, the presence of this belief helps establish justice and order. Individuals become more mindful of the rights of others, leading to fair treatment in all aspects of life. Trust is strengthened within communities, and cooperation replaces exploitation. This creates an environment where people can live with dignity, security, and mutual respect. In contrast, when belief in accountability is absent or weak, the natural consequences begin to appear. People will prioritize immediate gain over long-term responsibility, leading to harmful behavior. This results in a gradual breakdown of social structures, as corruption spreads and fairness diminishes. Over time, this imbalance affects not only the external environment, but also the inner state of individuals, leaving them with restlessness and dissatisfaction. Thus, belief in the hereafter and accountability is not merely a matter of doctrine, but a guiding principle that shapes behavior and outcomes. It ensures that blessings are used appropriately, responsibilities are fulfilled, and rights are preserved. It acts as a constant reminder that every action carries weight and will ultimately be accounted for. In this way, the Awareness at Judgment Day serves as a foundation for both personal discipline and societal harmony. It guides a person to act with sincerity, humility, and responsibility, leading to a life of balance and stability in both this world and the next. Allah the Exalted does not compel people to accept guidance by force, as such compulsion would remove the meaningful nature of the test of life in this world. Instead, He clearly presents the distinction between right and wrong, provides guidance through revelation, and grants every person the ability to choose which path to follow. After granting this freedom, each person is held accountable for the choices they make and the direction they choose to pursue. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verses 54 to 56.
No. Indeed it is, i.e. the Quran is a reminder. Then whoever wills will remember it. And they will not remember except that Allah wills.
These verses emphasize two important realities at the same time. Firstly, the divine message serves as a reminder, meaning it is meant to awaken a person's awareness and reconnect them to what is already known at a deeper level. Secondly, the response to this reminder is dependent on both human choice and the will of Allah, the Exalted. A person is given the ability to reflect and accept guidance, but the actual benefit of that guidance is ultimately tied to divine permission. True guidance leads to a life of balance. On an individual level, it results in a balanced mental and physical state, where a person's thoughts, emotions, and actions are aligned with purpose and clarity. When a person correctly uses the blessings granted to them, such as time, health, and wealth, they begin to experience a sense of stability and inner peace. Their life becomes organized, and their priorities are placed in their proper positions. On a societal level, this guidance leads to justice and harmony. When individuals act according to the guidance of Allah, the Exalted, they fulfill the rights of others, avoid injustice, and contribute positively to the well-being of their communities. This creates an environment where trust, fairness, and compassion are established, allowing society to function in a balanced and stable manner. Without obedience to Allah, the Exalted, this balance cannot be achieved. Since He alone possesses complete and perfect knowledge, His guidance is the only source that can fully account for every situation, circumstance, and condition a person may face. Human understanding, by contrast, is limited and prone to error. Therefore, relying solely on personal judgment without divine guidance can lead to imbalance, confusion, and injustice. For this reason, a person must recognize that obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is essential in all aspects of life. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 56.
He is worthy of being conscious of.
This involves not only believing in His guidance but also acting upon it, by using the blessings He has granted in accordance with the teachings outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. In doing so, a person aligns their will with divine guidance, seeks what is beneficial, and avoids what is harmful. This alignment leads to peace of mind, as the individual lives in accordance with purpose and clarity, and it also contributes to the establishment of justice and balance within society. Ultimately, the reminder has been given, the path has been shown, and the choice remains with each individual. Those who choose to reflect and act upon this reminder will benefit from guidance, while those who turn away do so by their own decision and will be held accountable accordingly. This chapter concludes by reminding people that Allah, the Exalted, does not require perfection from them. Chapter 74 Al-Muddaththir, verse 56.
And adequate for granting forgiveness.
This highlights that human beings are not expected to live without faults or shortcomings, as this is beyond their nature. Instead, what is required is sincere effort. A person is expected to strive to use the blessings granted to them in ways that are pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, to the best of their ability, while consistently attempting to fulfill His commands and avoid His prohibitions. Mistakes and errors are part of human life, but the real danger lies in persisting in wrongdoing without reflection, regret, or a willingness to change. When a person becomes comfortable in their errors and fails to turn back, this leads to spiritual decline and distance from guidance. In contrast, the one who recognizes their shortcomings and turns back sincerely demonstrates humility and awareness. The path that is required is one of continuous effort, combined with regular repentance. A person strives to improve, and whenever they fall short, they return to Allah, the Exalted, seeking forgiveness and correction. This cycle of striving and returning strengthens a person's connection with their Creator, and keeps their heart active and aware. When a person adopts this approach, they place themselves within the scope of divine mercy. Allah, the Exalted, has made forgiveness vast and accessible, allowing a person to recover from their mistakes, regardless of how often they occur, as long as they are accompanied by sincerity and a genuine desire to improve. This attitude leads to a state of inner tranquility. A person who strives sincerely and repents regularly does not become overwhelmed by their shortcomings, nor do they become careless. Instead, they live in a balanced state, aware of their responsibilities, hopeful in mercy, and cautious of their actions. This balance produces peace of mind in this world, as they are not burdened by unresolved guilt or heedlessness. At the same time, this approach nurtures hope for success in the hereafter. A person who consistently returns to Allah, the Exalted, lives with humility and awareness, knowing that their efforts are recognized and their repentance is accepted. Their life becomes one of continuous improvement, guided by sincerity and supported by divine mercy. In this way, the conclusion of the chapter reinforces that success is not dependent on perfection, but on sincerity, effort, and the willingness to return after every mistake. To conclude, a person must accept and act upon Islamic teachings for their own benefit, even when these teachings oppose their personal desires. True success lies in prioritizing what is right over what is appealing. This can be understood through the example of a wise patient who follows the advice of a skilled doctor. Even when prescribed bitter medicine and a strict diet, the patient adheres to the guidance because they recognize it is ultimately for their well-being. As a result, they attain both physical and mental health. In the same way, the one who accepts and acts upon Islamic teachings will achieve a balanced mental and physical state, and will be able to correctly place everything and everyone within their life. This is because only Allah, the Exalted, possesses complete and perfect knowledge of human beings, both their inner and outer realities. Human knowledge, regardless of how advanced it becomes, remains limited. Despite extensive research into human behavior, mental health, and physical well-being, people are still unable to produce a system that can address every challenge a person may face, prevent all forms of stress, or ensure complete balance in life. Human understanding is restricted by limitations in knowledge, experience, foresight, and is often influenced by bias. In contrast, Allah the Exalted has full knowledge of what benefits and harms His creation. He has provided this guidance through the Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This guidance is complete, balanced, and applicable in all situations. When a person observes those who live according to this guidance and those who do not, the difference becomes clear in terms of stability, purpose, and peace of mind. While patients often follow medical advice without fully understanding the scientific details behind it, Allah, the Exalted, does not require blind acceptance. Instead, he invites people to reflect, think, and observe the wisdom within Islamic teachings so that they may recognize their truth through clear evidence. This requires a person to approach the teachings with sincerity, openness, and without prejudice. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
In addition, as Allah the Exalted alone has control over the hearts of people, the place where true peace of mind resides, He alone grants tranquility to whom He wills. Chapter 53 and Najm, verse 43.
And that it is He who makes one laugh and weep.
It becomes clear that true peace is not given to those who simply follow their desires, but to those who use the blessings they have been granted in the correct manner, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Through this, a person attains balance, fulfills their purpose, and achieves success in both this world and the hereafter. Chapter 16 and Nahl, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and may peace and blessings be upon His final messenger, Muhammad, his noble family and companions.